morning to all of all of you. Good morning and good evening to my participants from India and other locations. We have global participation in this batch. I've received more than 100 nominations. However, in order to accommodate and to ensure effectiveness of this training, I could not accommodate more than 50 participants for this batch. So those I could not accommodate in this batch, I can probably think of starting another batch once this batch is over. So, I apologize for not being able to accommodate those, participants or those nominations which I probably received at the 11th hour. Now, for those who are joining this training session or this, workshop on CrowdStrike, various modules of CrowdStrike, today is the first day, and consider this as the first day of your project wherein we do mobilization. So today we will devote time in making sure that each one of you have access to CrowdStrike console. Each one of you have access to an infrastructure, account wherein you will provision endpoints, and those endpoints will then be onboarded into CrowdStrike. I'll also talk about the table of content or the curriculum that we are going to cover in this training session, which will span for next couple of months, and the modules that we are covering in this training session. So if you have already attended my training sessions in the past, the probability is almost nil because this is the first time I'm running a public batch. I primarily deliver corporate training batches and consulting sessions. In this training session, we'll cover majority of CrowdStrike modules. I would not say all modules of CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike also has OT security module, it has AI security module, and there are few modules of CrowdStrike which are currently in beta phase. They are not available to all the customers or to customers who use CrowdStrike in their production environment. So those modules will not be covered. However, during the course of this training, if those modules are released in production, they are released in general availability, GA mode, definitely I'll see if I can also cover those modules. If not OT security, which is a specific module, not all of you would need access to OT security or would need to learn how we secure operational technology, IoT, OT environments. But then as far as AI security module is concerned, I would definitely see if I can cover that module at the end of this training, probably once we are done with all the modules, if that module comes in GA by that time. So that's the idea. So that's how this is the background of this public batch, that based on the request, I decided to give it a try. And you know, I'm I'm glad and grateful to my professional community that I have received a great nominations, a lot of nominations. And I also apologize to my community that I could not accommodate each one of the, person who actually nominated for this training because I could not go beyond 50 as a number. So that's about the background of this training. Let's first understand the scope of this training. What are we going to cover in this training? These are the modules that we are intending to cover as part of this training session. There is a sequence in which all of these modules will be covered, and that sequence have been decided based on certain logic. So we are starting with CrowdStrike Certified Falcon Administrator. Let's click on this and let's understand. All of you have access to these to these TOC. This is for CrowdStrike Certified Falcon Administrator Certification Exam Guide. Now this document basically covers the syllabus, the curriculum of this certification, as well as additional information in terms of how do you appear for this certification, what will be the certification cost, for how long the certification will remain valid. All that information is available in this exam guide. So first thing first, I had received a lot of communication from some of you that whether this certification would make sense, whether I should go for this certification. Uh, so the answer to that question is depending on who you are. Now, when it comes to technology, there are always two sides of it. So I'll use this Word document as session transcript wherein I will. All right. Hope the Word document is visible to everyone. So while you work in the technology space, there are two sides of it. So there are two main career options in technology space. Give me a minute. Okay. So the first option, or there are two sides, as I said. The one side is engineering. In engineering, we also call it practice. We also call it COE. We also call it administration. That's what engineering is. So if you compare this from CrowdStrike perspective and say what would translate to CrowdStrike engineering, it basically means that you are going to be responsible for design, for architecture, implementation, optimization of CrowdStrike solutions, various CrowdStrike solutions. So you're responsible for design and architecture when you are expected to design and architect the CrowdStrike solutions for your customers or for your internal consumption for your organization. That would include deciding on that would include deciding on the architecture, whether you would want to use CrowdStrike a solution as a SaaS module, browser-based access, whether you want to deploy it in your on-premises. It would also, include the decision whether you want where exactly you want to store the data. The so CrowdStrike is going to capture the telemetry. It will capture a lot of it will capture logs. It will capture security incidents. It will capture a lot of data from your endpoints. So where exactly are we going to store that data? Are we going to store that data wherever CrowdStrike wants to store, or do we need to comply with data residency and localizations, compliances and standards? So where exactly are we going to store the data? How many endpoints are we going to onboard? What are the operating systems hosted on those endpoints, whether they are Windows, Linux, Chrome OS, Mac OS, or any other operating system? So all that comes into design and architecture. That would also include the method through which you will perform the onboarding, whether you're going to perform the onboarding one after another, whether you would want to use some software packaging solution through which you will onboard the endpoints, multiple endpoints in one go. That's for design and architecture. Then comes implementation. Implementation basically means that now that you have designed the solution, you've onboarded the endpoints, then comes about configuration of security controls. So you would want to ensure that on those endpoints, certain behaviors are restricted or encouraged. So when I say certain behaviors, let's say you don't want your employees to use USB storage devices, flash drives, USB removable media devices. You don't want your employees to access social networking sites from corporate endpoints, from corporate devices, or from official laptops or desktops. You want to make sure that if there is any attempt to upload any data from the endpoint to a cloud storage, it is intercepted, it is blocked, that behavior is blocked. So those are known as certain actions that you want to prohibit or you want to control on the endpoints. That is where implementation will come into the picture. So you will basically configure firewall policy, network containment policy, sensor update policy. You will configure indicators of compromise, indicators of misconfiguration, indicators of attack. Now, these could be some technical jargons for you if you're new to cybersecurity, but be rest assured, we'll make sure to start from the very basics uh, so that all of you are on the same page. That's the implementation side. Then comes optimization. Optimization basically means that now that the product is completely onboarded, endpoints are onboarded, product, your CrowdStrike services are released to production and they are protecting your production environment. Now, from time to time, CrowdStrike will provide additional updates. CrowdStrike will add additional capabilities to its existing modules. It will deprecate some existing capabilities. It will include new capabilities. So you want to make sure that those capabilities are included in your deployment. So from time to time, you will perform optimization of that solution, which would also include removing all deprecated endpoints which are no longer supported by CrowdStrike, adding additional modules and capabilities as and when required. And that would also include performing an update and upgrade of the solution as and when it is warranted. So that's design, architecture, implementation, optimization. That's the engineering part. Then comes the operation side of it. Now, what we do in operations, we also call it SOC. SOC stands for Security Operations Center. So what we do in SOC, the professionals who work in SOC, their job is to leverage the capability which is provided by the engineering function. So if your engineering team has deployed CrowdStrike, the job of CrowdStrike is to monitor the endpoints in near real time and generate detections. It will generate incidents. It will generate alert. So if engineering team or administration team has blocked certain behaviors on the endpoint, let's say if they have blocked personal email domain, so they have blocked gmail.com, yahoo.com, or let's say outlook.com, or they have blocked certain IP addresses. I'm just typing a hypothetical IP address, or they have blocked certain URLs, let's say, or any application, for example, TeamViewer, VLC Media Player. So if your admin team has blocked certain URLs, certain FQDNs, certain IP addresses, or certain applications, you should not be able to browse them. You should not be able to access them. You should not be able to download and install them. And that's exactly where operations comes into the picture. So if there is any employee who is trying to access any of these resources over the internet or within the corporate network, and it is blocklisted or prohibited by CrowdStrike capability, the administration or practice engineering team has done it, then the security operations team, they will receive alerts. So they will receive alerts and incidents as and when an employee tries to access one of these resources. That's one thing. The other is CrowdStrike also uses its own cyber threat intel, through which it is able to scan for threat which is which are getting introduced, or adversaries which are getting visible every now and then. So CrowdStrike is also scanning the internet, scanning the public network or untrusted network for threat, for adversaries. And if it identifies any zero-day attack, if it identifies any zero-day vulnerability, it will be quick to update its sensor so that all the customers are protected from those adversaries. That's what CrowdStrike does. So what will happen? Any activity which is against the security best practices, security configuration, will result in alert and incident. And these security operation team members, they are known as SOC analyst or SOC engineer, or the terminology differs from one organization to another. They will be responsible for handling these alerts and incidents. So their job is to actually look into the console, look into the dashboard all the time. They will be working 24 across 7. So they'll be working in shifts. There will be somebody available in SOC team all the time. The job is to pick up those alerts and incidents, investigate the root cause of it, investigate who is impacted, what is impacted, what is the source of truth, where exactly that threat is triggered, all that they investigate, then they remediate it. So they basically close that incident, resolve that incident, and as part of that resolution, sometimes they provide certain inputs to this engineering team to either block certain behaviors, to block certain file hashes and other resources. So that's what operations team is doing. Now, operations team is also making use of AI. So operations team will use AI, or SOC team members will use AI to summarize incidents, to you know uh, to compare the incidents with certain open source tools. So they will make use of AI to summarize, to compare, to correlate if they want to do certain correlation. And this AI is in the form of Gen AI, which basically means you will be writing prompts as a security engineer. So let's say you identify an incident with an endpoint. Now you want to know whether that behavior was reported on other endpoints or not. So you can probably write a prompt real quick and say, has there been any presence of this file or this process in my environment? And the Gen AI, the Shallow AI, which is the corresponding AI in CrowdStrike, it will be quick to scan all the endpoints, logs that it has received, the telemetry data, and it will tell you, yes, there has been a presence of this file on additional endpoints. So that will help you with correlation. Similarly, you can compare it with other behaviors. You can see the information about a specific behavior, specific file access, specific process on virus total on open source intelligence. And in the end, you can summarize the incident also, so that you want to report it to the management. So that's where Gen AI will help you. Gen AI will also help you, or AI, the AI technology provided by the sedition, will also help you to proactively hunt for threat. If you want to write a query, so CrowdStrike basically uses CQL, CrowdStrike Query Language. This is based on SQL syntax. If you have been from SQL background, SQL Server background, or structure query language background, you would be quick to learn it. You would be quick to write a query language to discover certain behavior. However, if you are not a programmer, if you have not been a programmer or do not come from programming background, then this AI will help you. You don't need to write a query. All you got to do is write a prompt. Just write the question. It will have it converted into the corresponding CQL. So that's what AI will do here. So SOC team, they are responsible for handling alerts and incidents, and they also leverage AI capability inbuilt in the solution to effectively manage, remediate, correlate, and summarize or resolve the incidents. So these are the two sides for any technology function. Now, whether you are on this side or you are on this side, CrowdStrike has modules for it. So the first module that we are focusing on is basically on engineering side. And this is the base module also. Without knowing this module, you would not be able to effectively manage the operations. You will always have blind spots. You will always have gap in your knowledge because you would not know where exactly a specific capability is configured. And while you provide suggestions to admin team, you will not be able to you will not be able to effectively communicate with them because you would not know where exactly what is configured. So the we start our training with CCFA. CCFA is the base module. This module will introduce CrowdStrike console. You will have knowledge of console navigation. You will know each and every uh, option which is available on the console, all the modules which are enabled in your account, and you will have the basic to intermediate level understanding of configuring that capability. That's what this module is all about. So the more you practice, the more you spend time with the console, it will give you more clarity on those options. This training will try and cover every minute aspect of CCFA. So let's understand what CCFA is. Now, CrowdStrike has a certification for it. The cost of that certification is 250 US dollar. So the certification exam is 90 minutes. They ask 60 questions. Those questions are MCQ, multiple choice questions. And if by any chance, in the worst case scenario, you're not able to clear the exam in the first attempt, you can also appear for the exam after 48 hours. So 48 hours is the wait time. After the second attempt, if you are not able to clear it, then you need to wait for 7 days. And for this third attempt, you need to wait for 7 days. However, the way I'll deliver this training, I'll make sure that you clear the exam in the very first attempt if you ever try to appear for the exam. Though the training does not require you to appear for the exam because it has a separate fee for it. However, if you have sponsorship from your management, from your employer, you can always do that. So that's about the certification program. There is an age limit, which is you must be of at least 18 years of age, which all of you are. So you don't need to bother about it. Now, this exam will basically validate your knowledge across these areas. So if you clear this exam, they will assume that now you understand user management and role-based permissions. You have the knowledge to deploy and manage Falcon sensors and create groups. You have understanding of creating configurations with respect to different types of policies that CrowdStrike provides. You are able to configure allow list and block list. So you know how to allow a certain behavior on endpoints and how to block a certain behavior, which includes process, which includes files, which includes softwares and applications, IP addresses, or domain name. It also validates your knowledge about administrative reporting. So you have good knowledge of reporting capability. You know how to generate various types of reports, which are executive reports, technical report, non-technical report. And you have a minimum of 6 months of experience working in the Falcon platform. So if you're new to Falcon platform, if you're new to CrowdStrike world, I would suggest you to write your exam 6 months from now, because in these 6 months, you will prepare yourself, you will introduce yourself with CrowdStrike console, with various capabilities which are available. You will configure them, manage them, maintain them, troubleshoot if things do not work as expected, and then you are ready for this certification. Now, what is included in the certification? So let's look at the certification scope. So if you look at the scope of this certification has primarily 8 main domains or 8 main areas in which we'll focus. So this certification deals with user management, which basically means we will know how to provision users in CrowdStrike console, how to grant them access to various capabilities which are available in the console, how to create custom roles if required when native roles are not sufficient or do not meet our business requirement. That's what user management is all about. Then comes sensor management. Now, user management also includes providing user capabilities. It also includes configuration of security controls around user management, which is configuration of multi-factor authentication, enforcing users to change their password after a certain duration. All that comes into user management. Then comes sensor deployment. So after you create users, you will need to onboard endpoints. So this is where we use the concept of sensor. This is nothing but an application, a small executable, less than 100 MBs. You will basically download and install this sensor on the endpoint. You will install it. While installing, you would require certain information that you will get from the console. After the sensor is installed, it will start to scan the endpoint. It will first perform a full scan of the endpoint, and then it will run subsequent scans. It will monitor the endpoint in near real time. It will monitor the endpoint for on write, on execute operations, and it will report any suspicious activity to CrowdStrike. At the same time, it will block any behavior which has the which can which can corrupt that endpoint or which can make that endpoint run partially. So that's what sensor will do. So you will learn how to deploy sensors. If there are 10 endpoints, what you will do. If there are 100 endpoints, will you follow the same strategy? If there are 100,000 endpoints, what will you do in that case? So that's what sensor deployment is all about. That includes installing the sensors, uninstalling the sensors, performing maintenance on the sensors. And if by any chance you're getting an error and the sensor is not getting installed successfully, you're unable to uninstall the sensor, then how do you troubleshoot sensor deployment and sensor uninstallation. That's what sensor deployment is all about. Then we'll talk about host management and setup. This is where we'll spend majority of the time. This is where you basically configure different types of policies. You configure the management aspect of those hosts. Host basically means endpoints. So when I say sensor, it basically means installer. And when I say host, it basically means endpoints. Now, what are these endpoints? Endpoints could be a server. It could be a laptop. It could be a desktop. It could be a smartphone. It could be a tablet, iPad, Mac OS. So that includes in server. And so that's what your endpoints are. Basically, any device which is hosting an operating system that CrowdStrike supports. So what are the operating system that CrowdStrike supports? It supports Windows, client and server OS. It supports iOS. It supports Chrome OS. So it supports multiple OS. It supports Linux and multiple distributions of Linux. Now, this information is available on CrowdStrike documentation in terms of supported endpoints, supported operating systems. I'll share the URL with you. You all will have access to CrowdStrike University by virtue of this console access. So I'll share the URL with you during the training session because this information is quite dynamic. If I put that into a PowerPoint presentation, what if CrowdStrike adds additional support, additional OS into the support? What if CrowdStrike removes certain versions of operating system from their support matrix? So it is always advised to refer OEM documentation for any information, rather depending on third-party resources or PowerPoint presentations. So that's about host. So here we'll talk about how to configure a host, how to disable detections on a host, how to move that host into a forensic group, how to isolate it from the rest of the network, if how to configure a host in reduced functionality mode, how to identify if there are hosts on which Falcon sensors are installed, but they are not reporting into the console. So everything related to host management or endpoint management is what we will do here. Then comes group creation. We'll also see how do we create, host groups, how do we combine host into a specific group based on business unit, based on operating system environment, based on certain other parameters. That's what we look at. Then we'll talk about policy configuration. This is where you configure all the security configuration. So we'll configure prevention policies, containment policies, firewall policies, network policies, indicators. So the entire security configuration is part of policy configuration. So we'll configure the policies, we'll configure the rules, indicators of attack, we'll configure both allow list and block list. So if there is any operation that you want to allow that CrowdStrike considers as malicious, you can put that into allow list. If there is any operation that you want to block and you want CrowdStrike to do it on your behalf, you can add that to a block list. So we look at rule configurations, also allow list, block list configurations. Then we look into the dashboards, that how do we build a dashboard? How do we create custom dashboards? If there is any native dashboard which is available, how do you make use of that dashboard? And also reports. What are different reports type available in CrowdStrike? How do you generate reports? How do you schedule? How do you generate an on-demand report versus scheduling a report? How do you configure that report to be sent to yourself or to some other team members or to your executives, your management? All that we look into this. Then comes workflows. Workflows are more into automation. So here we'll have a small glimpse of workflow, that how do we create workflows or how do we create automation that will basically help you to resolve detections and incidents. That's what we are going to look here. And these workflows we'll look into depth when we look into the Falcon Hunter module and when we get into the SIEM module, SIEM and SOAR module of CrowdStrike. So this is the syllabus that we are going to cover. Now, what is CrowdStrike University? CrowdStrike documentation is not publicly available. They are only accessible to CrowdStrike customers or users who have access to CrowdStrike console. So from the CrowdStrike console, you basically navigate to support and resources, and from there you have access to CrowdStrike University. CrowdStrike University contains knowledge base articles. It contains trainings also on certain capabilities of CrowdStrike, and you have the option to also nominate yourself for paid training sessions. So your organization must need to purchase certain credits that will be adjusted against those training nominations, and you can attend instructor-led training. The way you're attending this training, a training will be delivered by a CrowdStrike trainer, and you can attend those trainings and you can learn various modules of CrowdStrike. So that's exactly what CrowdStrike University contains. It also provides you a way through which you can raise a support request with CrowdStrike, and you can also remain up to date in terms of what is happening in CrowdStrike world. So that's what CrowdStrike University is all about. I'll take a pause and see if there is any participant who has any questions so far. Okay, Soumya, please share the career path from consulting and pre-sales for CrowdStrike. That's exactly what I've shared. So if you want to be into consulting, if you want to be into sales, this is what you need to know. Now, when it comes to pre-sales, in pre-sales, you need to know something of everything because that's what salespeople do. They know something of everything, or they know something of the product that they are selling in the market. They are not in depth, they do not possess in-depth knowledge of that product. For that, they have engineering teams. For that, they have an operations team or center of excellence or practice team. So what they are doing, they are basically connecting with the prospects. They are, uh, they are positioning their product and services. And if it requires in-depth discussion, they will always bring experts into the call, into the meetings. That's what pre-sales do. I had been into that role for some time. So pre-sales are always supported by engineering team, which is your experts, admins, subject matter experts of that solution. So if you want to be into consulting, if you want to be into operations, or if you want to be in the limelight, this is what you need to be at. So these people are always in the limelight because they are the one who design and architect the solution. They are the one who basically onboard a customer. And even if you're doing it for your internal organization, you will always remain in demand because you are doing all the configuration. But then you also have more responsibilities on your shoulder at the same time. So whether you are working for a captive unit who is using CrowdStrike, you can be part of this team. Now, depending on the nomenclature, some organizations use engineering, some organizations say practice, some say COE, some says administration, some say something else. But that's what the engineering side of CrowdStrike is. And then operations. Now, this is where, as I said, you work 24 across 7. Most of the time when you start a career in cybersecurity, this is where you land. Most 90% of the professionals land in operations. They start their journey with operations. They learn the product, the consumption side of it. How do you leverage that product? And slowly and gradually, they move into engineering. Once they have acquired sufficient knowledge, then they apply for internal job of promotions, IJPs, or they probably look outside and they get into the engineering side. So engineering is where majority of the uh, work is done, and operations is your continuous function. So that's about the difference between engineering and operations. So Jagan has a question. Do we need to pay for examination? Yes, absolutely. This training, the amount that you have paid for this training does not cover certification cost. Certification is 250 US dollar, which is far more than what you have paid. So, however, I can get you certification voucher at a discounted rate. What would be that discount? I cannot comment right now because CrowdStrike keeps changing that policy all the time. Sometimes they offer discounts, sometimes they don't. So I'll get you the exact price when you're ready for the certification. Okay, Siddharth. So this entire training session is pure play hands-on. Since today is the first day, this is more of a mobilization phase wherein I'm bringing all of you on the same page. I'm setting up the context. From tomorrow onwards, it will be all hands-on that we all will be doing. So if you want to know the bifurcation between theory and hands-on, let's keep it 20-80. So that's the bifurcation, 20% theory and 80% hands-on. Now, why 20% theory? Because unless you understand the context of a specific configuration, you would not be able to configure it to its fullest capability. So for theory, I will be using PowerPoint presentation. I will also provide you access to CrowdStrike documentation, all the specific URL from CrowdStrike University, where you can get in-depth knowledge about that concept. And for hands-on, you all will have access to CrowdStrike console. You have your own playground. There you can build, you can, you can onboard endpoints, you can perform configurations, and if things do not work as expected, you can decommission them. So it will be your playground. You can do hit and try. All that you can do there. Okay. Any other question from any participant? All right. Great. So let's move on. Yes.
Here I go. I'm from implementation team, so I would like to have some insights on licensing and custom interaction, which we have in the during of initial phases. So how we are going to pitch, or you can say, let's say a customer has bought already CrowdStrike and they want to get the implementation. So they will be doing the resource planning. They will be having a project timeline. So I would like to have some insights on that.
Okay. So when it comes to licensing, see, always remember licensing is a complicated subject,
Mhm.
and and the pricing differs from one customer to another. It is like you show me a customer, I'll show you the price, depending on how much are they willing to pay, how many employees or how many endpoints do they have. That's how licensing differs. So we have base price, and then we have actual price. That's how licensing works. Now, if you want to know the actual price, I cannot tell you because it differs from customer to customer. So if you approach CrowdStrike and say, I have 100 endpoints that
Okay.
I want to protect, right?
Uh-huh.
100 endpoints that I want to protect, CrowdStrike
Mhm.
will give you a specific cost per endpoint.
Mhm.
It will say that per endpoint will cost you $10, $50, $100, $200, $500. The moment you will say that I have 1,000 endpoints, obviously that amount will reduce because
Yes.
they see a potential coming from you, right? Your prospects.
Mhm.
If you
Yes.
have 10,000 endpoints, it will differ. So
Mhm.
actual price is something that the customer will only know. But I can talk about base price and different options which are available. For that, we can directly switch to CrowdStrike portal, and there this information is available. So let's talk
And
about this information.
sure. And how about the capability? Let's say
Yeah.
100 endpoints. So the
Mhm.
capability will decrease. I would say, uh, considering other products, I have been part of like Fred Micro, Defender EDR. There are different licensing model P1, P2, like
Absolutely.
E1, E2. So CrowdStrike does also have these kinds of licensing.
Absolutely. I'll talk about that also. Okay, so this is the public facing portal of CrowdStrike or CrowdStrike website. On this website, you have this, on this website, you have this navigation bar. Here you have pricing. So when you click on pricing, you see three products here: Falcon Go, Falcon Pro, Falcon Enterprise. Okay.
Okay.
Now, if I click on pricing, it will show me the cost for all the three products. So you can see Falcon Trial, Falcon Go, Falcon Pro, Falcon Enterprise. Now, Falcon Trial is available to certain customers who have not been using CrowdStrike services. So, for example, if your employer, so you have an email domain, for example, your first name dot last name at your employer.com. Let's say your
Okay.
employer is abc.com. So you are, first name dot last name at abc.com. So if abc.com is not an existing customer of CrowdStrike, and if any employee from abc.com requests a trial, CrowdStrike will be more than happy to give you a trial for 15 days. Sorry, 14 days. It is for 2 weeks. So you get a trial for 2 weeks. However, in that trial, not all capabilities are enabled, right? This was the reason when some of the participants approached and said, we can manage console access ourselves. This is the reason I discouraged you to go for yourself, because I knew that you would probably try to procure a trial. And in that trial, you would not have these capabilities, which are part of this training session. For example, in CCFA, we'll focus on endpoint detection and response, which is not enabled
Yes.
in the trial. Right? Firewall management is not there. So the training will not be able to cover all the modules, or you would lack certain capabilities. That is the reason I did not allow any participant to go for a trial part. Okay, so that's on the trial. Let's talk about the main, the actual products. Then you have the Falcon Go. Now, this Falcon Go is a pure play antivirus solution. It's like an antivirus that you deploy in your endpoint. It only
Mhm.
provides antivirus capabilities. It doesn't have anti-malware capabilities. Now, what is the difference between virus and malware? Malware is the class and virus is one of the, a member of that class. So malware includes worm, malware includes ransomware, malware includes spyware, adware, trojan horse, and other malicious threat. It only protects your endpoint from viruses, which is like a traditional antivirus solution. And as part of this product, since the cost is 59.99 per endpoint, you can see per device. So you pay this amount for each endpoint that you configure Falcon Go, and this will be charged on annual basis. So this is 1 year price. Right? Now over here you can see it says next gen antivirus, and then they also provide device control, which means you can also configure device control policies through which you can enable or disable certain behavior on your device port, which is USB port. That's what device control is all about. Then it also says mobile device protection. So you can also deploy this module on your smartphones, iOS and Android. It also supports Chrome OS also. That's Falcon Go, which is the basic product which no enterprise go for. I'm telling you right away, no enterprise go for it. Only individuals purchase it. Then comes Falcon Pro and Falcon Enterprise. Now, this is where enterprise invest. So most of the businesses, they go with enterprise, but some businesses also go with Pro. Now you can see the difference between Pro and Enterprise. The difference between Pro and Enterprise is that Pro provides some additional capability over Falcon Go. For example, Pro includes, you can see here, next gen antivirus, device control, mobile device, and firewall management. So if you go with Falcon Pro, you can also manage the device firewall or endpoint firewall from a centralized location. Now, let's say you have 100 endpoints and they are a combination of Windows and Mac. Now, both Windows and Mac has native protection capability. Through
Yeah.
firewall, they can filter the incoming and outgoing traffic, and they can allow and deny certain behavior. So instead of managing it individually on each device, you can have them managed from a centralized console, which is known as firewall management. That's what Falcon Pro contains, only one additional module. However, the protection is still incomplete because nowadays we are in 2026 and we talk about automation and AI. So if automation is not there, if AI flavor is not there, then our security is incomplete. That is where enterprise comes into the picture. This is what
Absolutely.
most of the businesses go for. So this contains all the capabilities. You can see here, enterprise contains endpoint detection and response. Now this is the main capability, EDR. That's what CrowdStrike is known for. It's an industry leading EDR solution. It has been rated as number one EDR solution by Gartner for the last couple of years. That's what CrowdStrike is known for. That's the value proposition of CrowdStrike. So with this licensing Falcon Enterprise, you get endpoint detection and response, and you also get threat intelligence and hunting. So you get access to hunting module. You also get threat intelligence feed coming from CrowdStrike about zero-day attacks, zero-day vulnerabilities, or any adversary that is getting introduced. That's what enterprise is.
Yeah.
However, CrowdStrike has additional modules. Now, CrowdStrike doesn't combine them in a license. So maybe CrowdStrike is playing smart here. Instead of adding one more SKU, wherein they could have taken $200 or $249 and then provided you access to all the modules, what CrowdStrike does here, they play smart. They say that over and above this module, if you need additional capability to protect your identities, if you want CrowdStrike to scan all the employee accounts, all the service accounts, all the Active Directory servers or identity providers that your organization is using, you will need to pay separately for identity protection. Now, we also have this module as part of this training scope, wherein I'll prepare you on CrowdStrike Identity Specialist certification. So you will all have access to identity module. There you will be able to onboard your identity providers. It could be Microsoft Entra ID, it could be AWS IAM, it could be Google Cloud Identity, an organization. It could be third-party solutions like SailPoint, Savient, Okta, Ping, or it could be your Windows Server on-premises Active Directory. Then comes IT hygiene. This is another module. This module is your CSPM module, Cloud Security Posture Management. What this module does, this module will act as a supervisory layer on the existing configurations that admins have created. So it will be quick to look for all the configurations that you have done as an administrator. Plus, it will look into your endpoints and it will provide you insights in terms of posture management, in terms of security score. That's what IT hygiene does. Then comes next gen scene, which is another module that is also part of this training session. We will cover next gen CrowdStrike next gen scene module, which is more of a log management solution, log monitoring solution, similar to QRadar, Splunk, Alert Logic, ArcSight, SecureOnyx, or Microsoft Sentinel, for which my channel has in-depth, playlist available, or ELK Stack, or Google Chronicle, or SecOps. It has been renamed as SecOps now, not Chronicle anymore. That's what SIEM is all about. And then comes Express support. Now it says Express support everywhere. What does this Express support basically means? This basically means that you can raise a support request to CrowdStrike if things do not work as expected, or if you're facing some trouble. CrowdStrike will provide you limited support to billing and technical issues. However, if you want CrowdStrike to support in the configuration, if you want CrowdStrike engineers to help you configure a specific capability or to help you troubleshoot a capability, this will not work here. This express support doesn't include that part. For that, you will need to pay in addition. That is known as managed detection and response. So CrowdStrike is a separate module, MDR. There you can pay a lump sum fee or case to case basis, certain amount that you can decide with CrowdStrike, and accordingly, they will provide you technical support. So that's what technical support is all about. So these are different modules of CrowdStrike. Now, for example, I support a client in Middle East who has subscribed to all the modules of CrowdStrike. Now that client is not even paying this amount. So you can see here a couple of modules are not included here in this 184.99. That client, since that client has 10,000 endpoints, CrowdStrike has given them significant discount on the cost, and the client is not even paying this amount. The client is paying much lesser than this and has all the modules included in the console. So it differs from client to client. This is the base price that people see when they navigate to CrowdStrike console. Now, if you are an enterprise, definitely you will not purchase it from here. In that case, you will approach CrowdStrike partner, either CrowdStrike partner, or you can directly approach CrowdStrike, directly. But then CrowdStrike doesn't directly provide, doesn't interact, allow direct interaction. So CrowdStrike has partners, and these partners are available across the geography. So, for example, in India, we have a couple of CrowdStrike partners. In Europe, we have a couple of partners. In North America, we have a couple of partners. So we basically approach the partners, and partners will try to provide us solutioning. So those partners will then have deep dive discussion. They will try to gain access to our environment to understand who we are, what kind of business we are into, how many endpoints do we have, are we a distributed organization, centralized, decentralized, are we across multiple geographies or restricted to a single geography. They seek all of that information and then they provide you with a quotation. And then you can negotiate with them on additional discounts if you can. That's how we basically onboard to CrowdStrike. Hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. So two more questions on this one. For one regarding the express support. So is it
Mhm.
something like Microsoft provides basic and standard and then premier support, and in basic they provide some hours. So is it something related to hours? If that is the case, then how many hours? Maybe
You
100
need to
hours or
purchase those hours. So there is
okay.
no express support basically means basic billing support. Basic billing support and technical support in terms of, let's say you paid for a module which is identity protection. However, that module is not visible in your console. Or
Yes.
you have added a couple of users, you have granted them certain role, but while they try to log into the console, they are not able to see certain capabilities. That's what support is limited to, express support. But the moment you say that I have onboarded an endpoint and I have, that endpoint has reported certain detections, certain incidents, and now I need you to support me in resolving that incident, that's where they deny because it doesn't include technical support. It only includes basic
Billing.
billing support and product support. Okay. And for
Okay.
technical support, this is the module Falcon Complete Next Gen MDR. So this module will provide you access 24 across 7 to CrowdStrike experts who will basically provide you support. And
Okay.
obviously, for this module, you need to pay extra.
Higher. Okay.
Yeah, hi.
And coming back to the partners part. So
Mhm.
partners, I understand the partners will provide the code. So they will be adding their own fee also on top of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Got you.
But then the challenge is, as I said, CrowdStrike doesn't entertain direct communication from customers in certain geographies. For example, in India, you cannot directly connect with CrowdStrike and purchase products from them. Even if you directly drop an email to CrowdStrike, they will route you to a partner based on who you are. So CrowdStrike, CrowdStrike salesperson or CrowdStrike, somebody from CrowdStrike will basically connect with you to understand who you are, and based on your value proposition or earning potential, they will route you to a partner. So CrowdStrike has partner across categories. For example, CrowdStrike has a partner who is primarily supporting small and medium enterprises. Then CrowdStrike has another partner who is supporting enterprises, large corporates. So CrowdStrike will route you to a partner based on the value proposition that you bring. But you will
Uh,
be working with the partner all the time. You will not directly be interacting with CrowdStrike.
Agreed. Agreed. Most of the vendors are doing the same phenomenon
Yeah,
right now.
they
So,
are, they are doing it to reduce
yeah.
to reduce the cost because
Yep.
if they directly entertain all of those communications, then they will need to hire employees. They'll need to build teams, manage communication channels. So they are trying to reduce that part by by handing over those responsibilities to their partners, and partners will then deliver more because they want to get business. So it's a strategy that is being followed by most of the ISVs today.
Uh, Got you. Understood. So regarding if I compare CrowdStrike with Microsoft, Microsoft also has multiple partners, and they provide some incentives at the end of if they get the more business. Does CrowdStrike also have something?
I cannot comment on that part. Obviously, there will be something to encourage and motivate their partners, but I do not have visibility on it.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for this insight.
sure. All right.
Another
So this was about pricing and licensing, guys. You don't need to bother on this part because as a technical person, you will not have any interaction at this stage. This stage is dealt by the pre-sales team or the sales team of your company or CrowdStrike partners. Your role will come into the picture when this stage has gone, when this stage has passed, when it is time to onboard the solution. design and architect the solution, that's where your turn comes. That's where you will start to participate into the discussions with your client or with your internal stakeholders. Any question before we move on, guys?
Uh, am I audible, Raghu?
Yes, you are.
Raghu, if I have a question on this Express support and MDR. If suppose
Uh-huh.
this MDR support SLA is going to be vary if we are going to purchase like sub Falcon Pro or Falcon Go module. So how the SLA basically works if we, according to these modules under this MDR?
It differs from module to module, depending on which. So any which ways, this MDR part is not available for Pro, Go and Pro. It is only available for enterprises, right? Go and Pro, they don't provide MDR support because here they don't have these modules enabled. MDR basically means that while you are in trouble, while you need guidance, while you're stuck with certain configuration, you need an expert to work along with you to help you navigate through that challenge. That's what MDR is. And that is what CrowdStrike provides. So MDR support comes into different versions and varieties. For example, as Hardik has rightly asked, sometimes you can purchase limited hours every year. So you will be provided support for those many hours. Sometimes you can purchase premium, unlimited support. And then the support response time also, which means for certain capabilities, you will get a response within 8 hours based on the priority and severity of your support ticket. For certain capabilities, within an hour, you will get a response. For certain capabilities, depending on who you are and how much you pay to CrowdStrike at the end of the month or at the end of the year when the contract is renewed, CrowdStrike may also provide you a TAM, technical account manager, somebody who is available 24 across 7. They can provide you a TAM in your local geography. So you can always drop an email to TAM. You can always call that technical account manager, and that person will act as a bridge between you and CrowdStrike. So you don't need to directly communicate with CrowdStrike. Just include your TAM in all the communications. So that's how it differs. It basically differs from customer to customer, from one geography to another geography. For example, MDR support is not available in all the geographies. So it differs. There are different things. For example, MDR is not available in some part of the Europe. So if you are from that geography, you will not get MDR support.
So in that case, what we can do, suppose if we need support from the some technical support from the this CrowdStrike, so how they will provide the support in that case? If
So Express support is available to everyone. Technical support differs from one geography to another. So, because see, when it comes to the world, we also follow the concept of data residency and localization or data privacy. So, when a company extends support to a certain geography, they need to comply with the data residency and localization laws. Now, what if CrowdStrike doesn't have an office in a specific, country in Europe? They cannot provide support to that country because the person who is providing support must be locally available in that country, right? They don't, because GDPR doesn't allow you to create your support organization outside of Europe. So there is a lot that goes into consideration. That's the reason I said that some services are not available in some countries and some geographies. And if you specifically want to know whether a specific service or a module is available to me for consumption in that specific geography, you will need to approach a CrowdStrike partner. You just need to drop, you can hit contact sales or you can hit, contact here, and you need to drop an email to CrowdStrike based on. So over here, you can see you can drop an email, you can provide your information, and then CrowdStrike will then align you with one of their partners. That's how it will happen.
okay, thank you. Thank you.
So it
Okay,
is not related to the technical efficiency. Some data
absolutely.
centers are not there.
Some data centers are not there, right? For example, in India, we have Digital Personal Data Protection Act. Now, this act is currently getting enforced. However, in US, we have California Consumer Privacy Act. It has certain regulations, certain enforcement, or GDPR, which is General Data Protection Regulation in Europe. It mandates certain behavior on part of businesses which operate in that geography. So those businesses must adhere to those compliances, else the the penalties are quite severe. Sometimes their licenses may also get cancelled. Sometimes it results in in legal obligations also. Proof how are endpoints counted against a sensor subscription license? Okay, this is more of a trust-based approach. So, for example, at the beginning, when you initiate your relationship with CrowdStrike, you may purchase a license for 100 endpoints. So let's say you purchase a license for 100 endpoints. However, you have 150 endpoints onboarded. CrowdStrike will not stop you from it. They will allow you to onboard as many endpoints as you want. However, what will happen at the end of the year? At the end of the year, they will perform pro rata. So at the end of the year, they will do the calculation that how many endpoints you onboarded, for how long those endpoints remain onboarded, and what is the average duration. And based on that, when they renew your license, they will either ask you to add additional endpoint licenses to your portfolio based on this calculation. So it's more of a trust based. So if you just onboard an endpoint for a couple of days and then decommission that endpoint, remove that endpoint from CrowdStrike, this will not be counted towards license renewal at the end of the year. But any endpoint that has been there into the console for a significant amount of time, that will be counted towards your license renewal. Hope that answers
Uh,
your question, Drew.
yes, Raghuvi. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, it's all trust based. They trust you for what, and same is the case with Microsoft or any other client is. See, I work with Microsoft, I work with CrowdStrike, Sentinel One, and other ISVs. Majority of them go with trust-based license. So they trust you. And the reason they go with trust-based license, because if they don't allow you to onboard, if you have license for 100, and the moment you try to onboard 101st endpoint, if they stop you, then they are also losing business, potential business. So they allow you to onboard as much as you can, and at the end of the year, they'll do a calculation from the backend, identify how many endpoints you had onboarded in the last 1 year, for how long they were up and running against the approved capacity, and accordingly they will update you and they will ask you to pay more. However, if you have 100 endpoint licensed and you have only onboarded, let's say 80 endpoint throughout the year, even though at the point of renewal you will need to pay for 100 because that's your base capacity. However, during the renewal, you can insist and say that I will only pay for 80 because I have 80 endpoints. And in that case, if CrowdStrike has offered you additional discounts because of this number, CrowdStrike may adjust that discount and show you and get you a quotation accordingly. That's how things will work. So let's not waste more time on these licensing and pricing discussion. As I said, this is not something that you will be dealing with unless you are into sales, unless you are into pre-sales. Let's focus more on technology aspects. But I'm glad that you asked these questions because these questions clarified your doubt and probably also the doubt of other participants who also had these questions in mind. Virtual server client, we basically call them VM. Or you can use VMware Workstation. VMware Workstation is a type 2 hypervisor that you can download from internet and you can use that to build virtual machines, right? So you can use VMware Workstation, and on VMware Workstation, you can create virtual servers or virtual machines. And then the third option, which is easy option, because these two options would require you to have knowledge of Hyper-V, VMware, and type 2 virtualization. You will also need to build virtual machines. You will need to configure the product. So these options are a bit complicated. The easiest option is subscription, trial subscription to a public cloud. Now, there are three public cloud that we have here that you can take a trial of these public cloud. The first one is Amazon Web Services, which is AWS. The second is Microsoft Azure. And the third one is Google Cloud Platform, GCP. right? These are the three clouds that you can take. What I recommend is AWS, and I'll tell you the reason why I'm recommending AWS. Out of these three, let's take a free trial of AWS. Why? Google does not allow provisioning of Microsoft client or server OS in trial plan. That's the reason this is also ruled out. So you can get Google Cloud trial, but then it will not allow you to create a virtual server with Microsoft client or server operating system, which is important. 90% of the organization, when it comes to endpoint, they use Windows. And Google doesn't even have image for iOS. Doesn't It doesn't have image for iOS. If you want to test iOS protection capabilities using CrowdStrike, you will not be able to do it. Right? So this one is also ruled out. Now let's talk about AWS. What value proposition we get with AWS? The value proposition that we get with AWS is that the free trial account that you create in AWS, it is valid for 1 year. The free trial account that you are creating. So the validity is 1 year. And you get 730 hours of access to EC2 instance free of cost every month. This is another benefit of AWS free trial. So EC2 instance is virtual server in AWS cloud. It's like your virtual machine, which is hosting client and server operating system that you want to protect. So with AWS, you get 730 hours of EC2 access. So which basically means that you can build multiple endpoints, you can onboard them into CrowdStrike, and you can learn the CrowdStrike security capabilities. So I would suggest you guys to create a free trial account with AWS if you have nominated yourself for multiple modules of CrowdStrike after CCFA. But if you have only enrolled yourself for CCFA and you have no plans to look into additional modules of CrowdStrike, then you can go with Microsoft Azure also. That is more than sufficient. Please do not create a free trial account in Google Cloud because this will not suffice the purpose of this training. Okay,
Yes.
how do we create a free trial account of AWS? It's very simple. We need to type AWS Free Tier. I'll put that into the chat window. Okay, click on the link in the chat window. It will take you to this window, which says AWS Free Tier. So we'll go with the free plan. The free plan gives, okay, they have made certain changes, guys. I'm saying it's all cost cutting at the end of the day. You know how AWS has realigned itself by laying off some 1,000+ employees in the last couple of days. So they're trying to reorganize and they're trying to cut cost. So there's a change. Now you get AWS cloud access up to 6 months, which is more than sufficient for our training. We only need it for 4 to 5 months. So you get up to 6 months and $200 you will have. We will not even spend $100 throughout this training session. So we are quite protected there. Okay, it includes free usage of selected service. This is the plan that we will go with. We'll go with the free plan. So how do we go with the free plan? We'll click on create a free account. It will take us to this window. And over here, it says new to AWS sign up. So over here, we'll click on new to AWS. And now we'll sign up. So it says try AWS at no cost for up to 6 months. I'll probably directly share this URL in the chat window. So you can directly click here. I put that into the chat window. Directly click the URL, and this is where you need to provide the root user email address. So you need to provide your personal email account here, your personal Gmail account, Yahoo account, Outlook account. Provide your personal account. Whatever is your personal account, provide that account so that your relationship with AWS is built on your personal account so that you will maintain it. Do not use Cloud Expert account. Only use your personal account here. So after you use your personal account, it will ask you to create your account name, AWS account name that you will see on AWS console when you log in. You can provide any name, whatever you want. So you can provide your name or whatever name you want, you can provide, right? Then it says verify email address. So whatever email address you're providing here, it will verify whether you own this email address or not. So what it will do, it will basically send you a code on your email address. You need to pick up the code from there and type it to verify that you own that email account. After you verify it, it will take you to another window. So let's say I'm verifying it. So I'll verify, then I hit enter. It will take me to the next screen. Now it will ask me to create a password. Now this password is for my AWS console login. So my email address is my Gmail account, which is my username, root username, and this is the password that I will create. So I'll create a password here. Then I hit continue. Now it asked me to choose a plan. Obviously, I will not go with paid one. I'll choose the free plan. So all of you, please choose free plan. And then you need to provide certain information here. Make sure that you provide accurate information. AWS will also require your payment method, a debit or credit card. They will deduct 1 rupee in your local currency. If it could be $1, €1, one, INR. So they will deduct, one in your local currency, and they will give it back to you. They just deduct that amount to make sure that the payment method is valid, that the payment method is active. So get through this information, and in the end, you will get your free trial account configured. As part of this free trial account, you will have access to AWS services free of cost for next 1 month. I can guarantee you, you will not even spend a single penny on AWS as part of this training because we will only use the free service from AWS account. And after the free trial period ends, AWS will still not charge you for any cost unless you convert that into a paid account. Now, all cloud service providers, they follow the same policy. Once your free trial duration is over, they will keep sending you an email on your registered email address that your free trial is getting exhausted, your free trial is getting over. Unless you manually upgrade it to paid account, they will not do it by themselves. So they will keep on sending you an email after the expiration of free trial for 30 days. If you don't upgrade it, they will delete your account, which means you are not paying anything to AWS. So for any training that we deliver on security, we primarily focus on AWS free trial. This is needed tomorrow. Tomorrow we will do the endpoint onboarding. So I need you to build endpoints. We will build endpoint from scratch tomorrow. I will have you log into AWS and build a couple of EC2 instances, a Windows instance, a Linux instance. Then we will onboard them into CrowdStrike and do the rest of the configuration as part of CCFA. So please make sure that you have an account here. So AWS is something that I recommend. However, you can also do Microsoft Azure. So if you want to do Microsoft Azure, you just need to type free trial Azure. And then you can click on the first link and you can click on try Azure for free. This is for Microsoft Azure.